Any minute now. There we go. Yo, guys, what's going on? Lucky Rave is back again. Yo, guys, what's going on? Lucky Rave is back again to give you guys my live stream discussion slash review on Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest, episode 14. And listen, for just this 1 week alone, it feels good. It feels really, really good to just come back on a Monday and talk about the latest episode of Fairy Tail, just coming off from the day after it came out, right? Because that's how this thing started. Like, I would talk about the anime relatively the next day after it dropped, just to let my thoughts simmer in. But lately, since I've been dealing with work, obviously it's been kind of tough with juggling my days together. And most cases than not, more often than not, I have to push it back to like say like later on in the week. At most, like worst case scenario would be like Saturday. But good news is your boy's on break for this whole week, so not only are you guys going to be expecting a lot more content for this week as far as the channel goes, but that also means getting to stream today, which is always amazing. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad and thankful that for this episode, I'm talking about it because this is the start of Core 2. Okay, the second half of Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest anime, which if you've seen the key visual, you already know that based on that key visual, you're going to be seeing some stuff that I thought we wouldn't be seeing until probably my best case scenario was going to be like season 2. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, they're going to cover what I thought was going to be the key visual for season 2 for that season, but instead they're just like, well, we're going to tackle it here. And I'm also saying that because given the recent pacing of the anime, I think it's been really telling too. We're 13 episodes in now. And I will tell you guys this right now, for any anime onlys out there, and I've been pretty good about this, pretty good. But if you guys know me, I never spoil content from the manga. When I'm talking about the anime, I specifically just treat it only towards the anime, nothing more, nothing less. It's just the anime content. Now, I will let you guys know that there are things to look forward to from the manga. I will say that, but I won't go into detail as to what those contents are. But needless to say, given the recent pacing, it's more or less like kind of aligning together that what we're gonna tackle within like these last 12 episodes, I think could be tackled. Could. I mean, who knows? I might save that for a whole separate discussion video because right now, like we're 3 minutes in, I haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of the discussion, which is the content of the episode itself. So, needless to say, last episode, episode 13, we ended off like in the middle of chapter 46. And we continue off from that with episode 14. So we're at the right hand. You see Elfman, you see Mira Jane, and they're both like acknowledging that these two, the two dragon eaters, Madmo and Scullion, like they're both pretty powerful. And then they also acknowledge that too, saying, wow, like you guys are like really, really powerful. Y'all are pretty strong. But at the same time, maybe it's best that we retreat. Maybe it's best that we just like, lay low for a while because Kiri is down. That's one. Wraith is gone too. So we can't risk losing a lot more than what we're dealing with, right? So let's do what we can right now and fall back. Like that's primarily what happens. So that ends up happening. Elfman and Mirajin are both just like, wait, what's going on? Like you're running away, and Mirajin reverts back into her normal state. She says, "Forget it, Elfman. Even if we did fight them, I'm not certain we could win." And this entire time, like Gray, Lucy, and Juvia, they're just like keeping a tab. They're like just keeping tabs like behind like a wall, and Grace is like, they're pulling back, and Juby's like, this is our chance now. Kana says, yeah, but. And then Lucy says, the real question is, how are we going to knock out Mira? And Grace says, leave that to me. Juby says, Grace sama. And he says, with Mira already weak, I'll manage her somehow. And Juby's like, he's awful. Say something awful in a cool voice doesn't make it less awful. Again, similar to the last episode, Lucy's like the only one that kind of has a soft spot for Elfman. She's like, don't forget, Elfman's there too. And then cut back over to the church on the left hand. You see Urza was knocked out. And look, I made a post about this on Twitter. And if you guys have seen the post, you guys know what I'm talking about. But, yo, Kyria is just down. She is down bad for Loxus, okay? I'm not even joking here. She's not. Like, she's on top of him. Her hands are just, like, all over him, too, like, on his body, his chest. She just looks at him like she's, like, sticking her tongue out saying, mealtime, Thunder Dragon. You look so tasty. Like, you're such a fine man, too. Like, if the anime did not lean into that whole, shipping aspect of a fairy tale, like you could already kind of get the implications of that when she says mealtime. But in the anime specifically, she says, "What a fine man." But Scolion just like telecommunicates, saying, "Kyria, we're getting out of here. Come back immediately." And she's like, "Huh? Well, when I've got a tasty looking man practically between my teeth." He's under but Scolion points out that, hey, he's under the control of the White Mage. If he consumed his magic, there's a pretty good chance you would be enthralled by her too. And she's like, what? Raid's been defeated. It seems we've underestimated this enemy. And she goes on to say, no kidding, every one of these freaks is scary strong. Actually, no. Then this is the part I was actually referring to here, is what she says in the anime, is this section right here, where she says, a fine man. I hope I'll be seeing you again. But what will we tell the master, Chuck? This is Madmal talking now. He says exactly what happened. It's our only choice. Other dragon gods remain. We'll have to let this one go. But Cha. And he's like, no, not them, Cha. Yes, if we can't succeed alone, then they'll have to get involved. Our guild's strongest forces, the Dragon Slayer Knights, which I'm not gonna go into who they are, but just know the Dragon Slayer, the Dark Dragon. Okay, be specific here. The Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. Ooh, anime only's out there. Look, manga readers, they already know the drill. They know what's up with the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. But as far as for anime onlys go, y'all are gonna be in for a real treat. Y'all are gonna be in for such a treat when that part happens. That being said, though, cut over to the right shoulder, and this is where we get things going, okay? Because you see Nebaru there, and he's hearing the telecommunication from Scolion, and he's just telling him, like, hey, those are your instructions, Nebaru. And Nebaru is just like, I don't want to listen. No listening. And Scolion, he's annoyed. He's like, Nebaru, come on. We gotta do this. And he says, hush! I eat cuckoo! And I love Wendy, okay? Wendy, if I was in her state, I'd probably be saying the same thing. She says, I keep telling you, that's not my name. I'm not cuckoo, and I'm not food. I've had just about enough of you. And listen, I'm going to be honest here. When she breaks out of her cocoon, I'm not going to lie. This was originally the thumbnail. The original thumbnail I had in mind was just this part right here, where she breaks out of her cocoon and she's like about to get like all powered up into her Dragon Force mode. I was like, that makes for a good thumbnail. But then, as I was watching the episode and I got to that one particular part, which I'll get into here shortly, I was like, no, it has to be that one. But This was still real cool. Where she's like, "I've had just about enough of you," and he's like, "Dragon Force, you can do too," and that just gets like Nebaru super excited. He's like, "But Generation 5 Dragon Force, a little different." And Scullion continues saying, "No, stop, Nebaru. We are forbidden from using that power." And like, that's the cliffhanger, by the way. As far as the manga goes, that's where we cliffhangered for chapter 46. So then we dive into chapter 47, titled Clinging Dragon Berserk. And that is the actual chapter, the actual episode title for episode 14. So we're here. You see Nebar getting powered up, getting excited, and Wendy's like, Generation 5 Dragon Force, and Scullion's like, no. Nebaru is going to use Dragon Force. That's forbidden by the guild, Cha. I'm going to stop him, Cha. And Scullion just like left contemplating about this. And he says, no, we cannot report yet another embarrassment to the master. But Cha, it might be time to cut Nebaru loose. He went rogue and died in the process. You gotta cover up your trail somehow. Like, if you want to deal with less smoke, less like flack, if you will, sometimes you gotta find like a white lie in the situation. It's stuff like that you have to do. But if he does indeed mean to use the Dragon Force, then perhaps at least take a few members of Fairy Tail with them. And cut back over to Nebaru, who's getting powered up. Like the shackles are coming off too. And he says, Cuckoo, I consume you. And Wendy left in a bit of shock, saying, what's this magic? It's wrapping itself around me. It feels like my body's being melted. And you see her starting to sweat, just thinking like, I'm scared. And he starts getting bulked up, like super, super bulked up, by the way. He goes in for the strike. Wendy, of course, uses her fists to block it with his. He goes in, forces Wendy back. Okay? Like, it goes to a point where Wendy, like, falls to the ground. Some of the buildings kind of get caught in collateral damage, obviously. But Wendy's still not giving up. She's saying, Sky Dragons roar. Clinging Dragon's sticky roar. And Wendy's like, the wind doesn't affect it? And he grabs onto Wendy. He does that. And Wendy says, rise, all elemental resistance. Deus Corona. And even then, even with Wendy doing that, not much happens, okay? Not much happens with Wendy in that point. Because Nebaru goes in, punching Wendy multiple times. Like, this happened in the manga too, by the way. And I remember feeling like super worried, super concerned for Wendy at this point. But seeing it in the anime, oh my god, like, yo, JC took it to another level here. When it came to this moment, they took it to a whole other level with this moment. And he's like, huh? And Wendy, goes out of Dragon Force mode. And he's like, Cuckoo dead? Cuckoo dead? But then he looks over and she sees, her just being unconscious and like, oh, good. Not dead. What do I eat first? Hand? Foot? Stomach? Hey. And again, Wendy's like just unconscious. He's like, answer, Cuckoo. Cuckoo. And as he's doing that, like he places his hand, like not on her mouth, but just like over her, right? He's like, Cuckoo, no can breathe, see? And he's doing that. Wendy's trying to shake it off. And he's like, don't like it hurt, Cuckoo? Wendy's coughing. This time, you answer yes. What I eat first. And again, Wendy's like just pinned. Super, super pinned to the ground. I'm not even joking here. Foot, stomach, and Wendy, dude. Wendy starts breaking down, like big time breaking down. Cuckoo cry? I thought I'd gotten stronger, but I was wrong. I had I had Natsu and the others around me, Carla by my side. And by the way, this is the first time we don't see Sharia like in 100 Years Quest. Like, even like that's one thing I'll say right now. Even up to this point in time, we haven't seen Sharia in the manga, but this is like the one reference of Sharia that we get in the anime. And this had happened in the manga too, which I thought was pretty cool. And Sharia, that's what made me strong. I can't do anything alone. Hmm? Awkward. No cry, cuckoo. I'm scared, but it's not the fear that's making me cry. It's because I'm humiliated at how badly I overestimated myself. This is the one thing I didn't want to do, but I'm so weak on my own. And then, this is the part, guys. This part right here. Ooh, this part right here spoke volumes, okay? She says, "Please lend me your strength." She breaks free from you know, from the sticky webbing, right? From Nebaru. Nebaru's shocked. And Wendy's like, "A residual thought enchantment I can probably only use it once. With the memories that bind you and me, I enchant this body." Irene Belsyrian. And you see her you know, donning on the iconic like Irene fit, which okay, I will say this: as far as like a transformation state goes, it's really cool. It's really cool seeing Wendy, you know, take on that form, right? But from the other angle, I can see where some people are like, "Yeah, this is kind of she a child. She shouldn't be wearing stuff like that." Like I can see the arguments for that, but I will say, regardless of that, like just seeing her go into this form was actually really cool. Not gonna lie. Irene Belsyrian, and by the way, this is the end of chapter 47. So diving into chapter 48 now, which is still a part of the episode. And this chapter title is called Fifth Generation Dragon Force. So Wendy is there, and Nebaru's shocked. He's like, "Cuckoo transformed?" And Wendy says, "Irene Belsyrian. She stole my body once. My mind traded places with hers." And this is obviously referring back to Alvarez. And this is what I love, okay? I love this from 100 Years Quest, is that we get so many callbacks to Alvarez, like, because this is the one thing I want to mention is that prior to 100 Years Quest even being a thing, I remember thinking about Alvarez and I'm like, man, like it was not like it was neat for what it was, but obviously compared to like the other arcs in Fairy Tale, it could have been better. And and I remember thinking like had Alvarez not been the final arc, in my opinion, I think there's a lot more stuff afterwards that could be built upon what came in Alvarez, right? And that's what we're getting. Like, if you've noticed throughout 100 Years Quest, there's so much stuff we've been getting that calls back to Alvarez. And in my opinion, that makes Alvarez a much better arc. I mean, yes, it still has its problems, obviously, the fake out deaths and whatnot. But one cannot deny the stuff that did happen in that arc is coming back and it's paying off in a lot of big ways, which I do like. A faint vestige of the connection we shared stayed with me in the form of residual thought. It's only a shred of her immense magical power, but I can use it to enchant myself. And this is the shot I was talking about here, the shot that I'm using for my thumbnail. This shot here, ooh, I love this shot where Wendy's like, with the strength of the mother of Dragon Slayer magic. And she goes in, punches Nebaru, and she's like cheering, saying, "Yeah." And like kicking him, punching him. Like, dude, this is Wendy peak, okay? Like Dragon Force already. I loved Wendy when she was able to go into her Dragon Force mode in Tartarus, but this right here, Seeing her getting back on her feet and doing this, incredible. Love it. But you see this, okay? Nebaru's taken aback. He's on the ground. And he's excited. He's like, cuckoo, amazing. Amazing. And then he starts getting back on his feet, getting real buffed up now, which shocks Wendy again. And going in for the punch. I'm sorry, not the punch. Going in for the knee kick. He knee kicks Wendy. And he's like maniacally laughing away. And Wendy's just like, well, what is this power? He's gone berserk, which obviously refers to the episode title, which is Clinging Dragon Berserk. And you're seeing what happens. And like Nebaru's gone. Okay? He is like gone. Like you see like his oh my god, what do you call it? His iris, right? Like if you notice his iris, like it's all covered. It's like all blood red. Is this the price for you fifth dragon? Wait, is this the price you pay for fifth generation Dragon Force? That's what Wendy says. And you see what's happening to Nebaru. Like Nebaru is like going into he's really delving into like dragonification. Like that is the state he's like going into. And even Wendy points that out. She's like an evolution of dragonification. And what I love about this moment is that even though like Wendy is like in her like Belserian form, it's not enough. It's not a thing where like she goes into the form where she one shots him. That's what I love about this. Is that even though she's able to put up a good number against Nebaru, he's still able to pull off something. And even Wendy points that out too, like unreal. Like even Irene's magic can't stand up to this. And again, Wendy taking it back and just trying to hold off the best that she can do. And then she hears a voice saying, "What are you doing, Pipsqueak?" And you see, oh my god, you see the return, the astral presence of the mother of dragons herself, Irene Belserian, standing next to Wendy. Again, as a projection, by the way, just want to mention that right now. Ghostly projection. You haven't even accessed 1% of my magic yet. And Wendy, much like the rest of us, are like, Irene? What? But how? You enchanted yourself with my power, didn't you? But why can I hear your voice? And Irene's just like, let's chat later. You just tell me what you want to do, and I'll help you do it. And despite what's happening with Wendy against Nebaru, she's like, give me the strength to defeat the enemy in front of me. And Irene's just like, you mean the power to kill the enemy in front of you, yes? And Wendy's like, no, we don't kill anyone. I only want to defeat him. And Irene, once again pointing out to Wendy, kill and defeat are the same thing. No. Very well. I warn you though, he can't simply be defeated anymore. And Wendy's like, what? To which Irene explains, when a dragon slayer's dragonification goes this far, there's no coming back. And you see him just growling. Wendy's, again, like, it can't be. And Irene says the only choice is to kill him. And of course, Wendy objects. She's like, no. But even then, not even then, okay? But that's when Irene, like, takes it in control of Wendy. And Wendy's like, my body, it's moving by itself. And Irene getting excited. And Wendy's like, so much magical power. Irene, stop. And Irene says, this is my true power. And she's begging Irene, like, don't do it. And you see what happens. You see, like, this big, like, red light shoot up in the sky, okay? The citizens are noticing it. Natsu and Happy take notice of that too. She's like, the heck? That came from the right shoulder. And they get a move on it. And you see just the strength of Irene merged within Wendy. You see, like the aftermath of that. And oh my god, okay, listen, this in the manga was one thing, but the way the anime portrayed it, I thought really, really great. Also, one thing I forgot to notice too, but like if you notice Wendy's gloves, if you will, there's like claws on there. So that's a nice little detail actually. But you see this Wendy's like kind of devastated by what happened. Irene still keeping like a straight face with a confident smile. And Nebaru is there actually. He's there. He's unconscious. Oh. And Wendy's like, he's alive. And Irene explains, like it's a separation enchantment. I used it to relieve Mavis and the fairy heart, among others. And Wendy's like, I can't believe it. You separated him from his magic? And Irene being so cheeky, saying, exactly. Now he's dead. As a wizard. So it's like a play on words, if you will. It's like, yeah, we have to kill him, but not necessarily kill him. We're just gonna remove. It's a very Aang approach, okay? Like from Avatar: The Last Airbender, when Aang took away Fire Lord Ozai's firebending, it's very similar to that, where Irene basically just took away Nebaru's Dragon Slayer ability, which is saying so much. When he says, so he can't use magic anymore. He'll suffer from magic deficiency disease for a while, but his magic power isn't actually gone. Perhaps one day the magic inside him will begin to rejuvenate. And Wendy's like, incredible! You can return a dragonified dragon slayer to normal. And she's just thinking to herself, if only I had known this spell 400 years ago. And Wendy's like, what? Because she's thinking back to what happened when Irene's just thinking back to when she became a dragon, when she became in that state, and she says, "No, never mind." By the way, how did you? Oh, I guess I should explain. By sheer coincidence, at the exact moment I thought I had died, it was your. Oh, okay. It was your smile. So this is basically like the last bits of Irene that we saw from not Hundred Years Quest, but from the original manga, right? And at the moment I thought I died, my personhood at least enchanted in you. And Wendy's super flustered about that. She's like, "What?" And when you try to use my magic, it caused me to appear. Uh, Irene, does that mean you're alive? And Irene says, "Not sure I can call it that. This is just my persona." And that blast used up the last of my magic. And Wendy's like, "Oh, I'm going to lie dormant here inside you for a while. At least until I find a new body." And Wendy's like, I'm not sure if that's such a good idea. But Irene goes on to say, don't worry, I won't interfere unless you need me. And you should not mention me to Urza. Could be trouble. And Wendy's just thinking, like, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe I probably won't. At the same time, Irene says, now, before I go, I better teach you a spell to deal with the White Mage. And Wendy's like, what? A separation enchantment. To split that black. I'm messing up on my words here. To split that witch back into two. And this leads us into chapter 49, which is called The Final Orb. Very fitting, actually. But Natsu and Happy, they go on over. They say, pretty sure it came from around here. Natsu, look over here. It's Wendy. Hang on. She looks funny. And Wendy's just thinking, like, I see. It's tricky, isn't it? No. I don't. Uh huh. I guess that makes sense, right? And Happy and Natsu are like just behind in the corner. Keep this in mind. They are just behind in the corner. They're witnessing all this. And they're just thinking like she's having a full conversation with herself. And Happy's like, Wendy's gone bonkers. And Natsu's thinking, don't tell me that ghost guy is back. Obviously referring to Wraith, right? I'll just have to become a thought projection again. And he's trying to fall unconscious. And he's thinking, how do I become a thought projection again? And Happy's like, don't look at me. This part was funny, okay? I love this part here. This banter between the two of them, hysterical as hell. But Wendy walks on over to Nazi and she says, Nazi, what are you doing here? Oh, Wendy, are you okay? Yeah. And Happy's like, you were talking to yourself, but we were worried. Oh, I was chatting with a disembodied acquaintance. But thanks to her, I might just be able to use a separation enchantment. And Nazi's like, what's that? It's a fundamental, and this is Wendy explaining, it's a fundamental purpose to separate a person from their magic. But it might also allow me to separate the White Mage into her constituent personalities. And Happy's just thinking, you mean you might be able to turn Toka back to normal? Normal? And Happy says the White Mage's other personality is actually a cat. While we were with her until a little while ago, I can't believe we managed to run away. Nod's like, we didn't run away. You kidnapped me. To be fair, Nod, he rescued you. There's a difference. Are you saying you know where the White Mage is? This is Wendy asking Natsu. And Natsu says, we saw her. Yeah, last we saw her, she was in the church on Aldoran's back. And Happy says, I'll bet she's still there. She seems to be in serious pain. Wendy says, then let's go. We have to rescue everyone. But first, I have to go help Carla. And Happy's just thinking, Carla. And this. Happy. I mentioned this before. But you gotta take things seriously. Okay? I get it. You have two felines. One is like already behind you and thinking, like, yo, I want you to be mine. Carla's still got work to do. But now is not the time for that, okay? Now is not the time for your threesome dream. Now is not the time for that, Happy, okay? I mean, look, was it funny? Yeah, but obviously not at a time like this. Oh, talk about spoiled for a choice. And Nas is like, you coming, Happy? And Wendy says this way, cut back over to Gray, and you see what happens here. Khan is like, you're pathetic. You have that much trouble with an enemy he's already had that stuffing beat out of them. And he's like, when it's Mira, yeah, Gray did his best, but at least we now have Mira and Elfin trapped in these cards. So okay, if there's one little gripe I will say is that this bit was kind of off screen, which I do think it would have been cool to see how Gray dealt with, Gray and Elfman. That would have been pretty cool to see, but the fact that it was off screen, kind of a missed opportunity. In my opinion, that's kind of a big missed opportunity right there. But this is both the manga and the anime, because it's not a case of like, say, the anime did it. The anime didn't showcase the Gray, Mira Jane, and Elfman, squabble, right? This only happened because this is something that directly translated from the manga. So it's a fact for the manga too, you know. Yeah, plus a bonus. Our dear defeated master, which that came from Natsu. So Makara obviously get the pass there. Then of course you have Gajil and Levy, who seem pretty much as lovey-dovey as always. Lillian, who Panther Lily's out too. Greg goes on to say, so many more of our friends, do you think are still under the control of the White Mage? And Lucy's thinking, maybe Loxus and Jalal. And that's bad news. And Juby is thinking, can anyone defeat Loxus? To which Kana says, I don't think we'll have to. My fortune telling shows neither of them can move. It doesn't seem like they're in any condition to fight. Because obviously, Loxus, from the last episode, was worn out. He was like defeated. Okay, him and Urza, like they fought it out, and they both knocked themselves unconscious. And someone free Jalal, okay? Because the way this man is right now, and the thoughts going through his head, somebody save him, please. Because we know what he's thinking. And look, I'm pretty sure he's had those thoughts, which is cool and all. But I mean, I need the calm, cool, collected, stoic Jalal back, okay? Because that dude, woo, that dude is something else. Anyway, Greg goes on to say, "Do you know where they are?" And Kana says, "I know where Elfman is. Jalal's from another guild, so I can't be sure." And Juby says, "Kana, can you guards tell us everyone's exact location?" And Plu's just like, Pooh. To which Lucy says, "It's okay. Your nose was very helpful." And Kana says only the general area. Once we get close, we'd be better off relying on Plu's nose. And Plu gets like super excited. And even like Lucy's happy too. She's like, "Lucky you, Plu. I'm so happy for you." And Greg goes on to say, "All right. Well, if Loxus can't fight," to which Lucy says that it's time to then now's the time to trap him in a card. Cut back over to the church on the back. Well, not the church on the back, not yet. But we're back to the church where Carla was left. And Wendy frees Carla. Carla, you okay? And Carla's kind of upset. She's like, "I wonder how long you were going to leave me here." Happy's excited to see Carla. Happy and Natsu too. There's Warren and Max. They're kind of unconscious on their cocoon too. And Wendy even points that out. She's like, "They're unconscious. I feel bad for them. But it does make things easier on us." And again, Happy being super flustered, super happy. No pun intended. But he's like, "You aren't hurt, are you, Carla?" And Carla's like, "Not at all." And you see the way he's staring at her. You're like, and Carla's kind of like, "What are you staring at?" And he's like, "I was right. You are adorable." And Carla's like, "What are you jabbering about, you creep?" And Natsu then says, "All right, next up, White Mage." The White Mage? See, it turns out she's actually a cat, and Wendy's gonna. Natsu being kind of being confused as always, and Wendy's gonna turn into a cat too. And Carla's like, "I'm not following," and she's like, "Natsu, I think you're getting it mixed up." Apparently, the White Mage is a separate personality inside the body of an Exceed named Toka. I'm going to use a separation enchantment to split them back into two people. An Exceed, this is what Carlos says, but that's not possible. All the Exceeds here on Earth know each other, including the ones who were sent here from Edelus 15 years ago, and all those who fled here from Edelus to escape the destruction of magic 9 years ago. Mom, I mean the Queen, she said she had a list with all their names. I mean, plus, we all visit with each other in this world like Stelia once in a while. And that just gets Carla thinking, like, well, actually, this is both Carla and Happy explaining it, but Carla's thinking, could she be some unknown survivor? But what does this all mean? And you hear the rumblings going on. Happy's thinking, well, Happy and Knots are both sure like, that's some quake. And Wendy says, it feels like when the other orbs were destroyed. And Nazi just says, we gotta hurry. Gotta get to the White Mage. Hear more shaking going on. Julie goes like it's worse than before. Lucy says, we gotta get everyone back together quick. Heading to the left shoulder. You see one of the orbs being shattered, and it is from none other than Mest. Just one left. I'm coming to you, White Mage. The town in the back, and we see Mest there teleported. And the White Mage on the floor. And he's like, my lady, well, what happened? You're. And he's like, Mest, my lady. The teleporter. Yes, it would have been quicker to leave it all to you from the start. The last orb is over there. Destroy it this instant. Seal away every last bit of Aldoran's power. And he says, my word, your word is my command. When the orb is shattered, Aldoran and his 5 towns will be no more. And it'll be a huge blow to an enormous magic. A blank era of peace shall be ushered in upon this world. You must have faith in me. And Mass being super excited says, I do, my lady. And he shatters the orb. Okay. You hear the vibrations going, okay? The rumbling, if you will. Not to go and like, what's that sound? Wendy says, that's the vibration from the ground. Are we even reaching the sky now? And again, same thing with Gray, Juvia, and Lucy. Like, they're all pointing this out too. Like, this can't be good. I can't even stand up. And the White Mage says, now, Aldoran, would Dragon God be brought low? Let your power come to me. And you see him start to scream. Okay? And that is essentially where we end off this episode. Okay? We end off the episode for 100 Years Quest, like in episode 14, with the very first page. The very, very first page of chapter 50. And honestly, as far as like ending off the episode goes, perfect. Pretty perfect. And if we're really looking at this, okay, like take this into perspective. We're on volume 6, right? And if we're looking at the contents, I'm going to say that probably next episode will probably end. If we're going with the same pacing, the very same pacing that we've been going with the anime thus far, then I think there's a good chance, a very, very good chance that the next episode either will end with the conclusion of Volume 6 or like just before the conclusion. Actually, it really depends. Like, what's the title of the next episode? Next episode title, okay, The Howling Earth. So, what does that determine? Okay, it could be either one. I'll say it like that. It can be either one where we end things off there. But as far as the episode goes, I will say for the most part, the episode was peak. It was really great. Wendy, of course, being the big spotlight. Obviously, Wendy is a huge spotlight focal point of this episode. And I will say what she was given was beautiful, amazing, perfection, right? But, like I said, there is one drawback that this episode does have, and that is not seeing the whole clash between, Gray, Mira Jane, and Elfman. Seeing what happened there, the fact that that was off screen, and again, this was the case for the manga too, but to not see that was kind of a missed opportunity. There is that. So, as far as the episode goes, like I said, Wendy is the spotlight. What she does in this episode is so good. It is so good. So amazing. And honestly, that's where I'm going to rate this episode. It's an amazing episode of 100 Years Quest. Okay? Again, even not being able to see the Gray versus Mira Jane and Elfman fight. Again, this also goes back to the manga too, but not being able to see that, missed opportunity there. Okay, big missed opportunity right there. But again, we got to look at this as a whole. The OST, the animation, top notch. The voice acting, very top notch. Very top notch. Very awesome, to say the very least. And also, we need to talk about the OP, okay? Because I realized I've went through this whole stream and we haven't even discussed once about the new opening. So, the opening is titled Endless Happy Ending. And the opening was done by Rampage, okay? Which, if you guys know Rampage, they did Down by Law during the final season of the original Fairy Tail anime. And Down by Law, in my opinion, is peak. One of the best Fairy Tail openings ever, okay? So when I heard that they were coming back and they were going to do the new opening, I was like, oh, this is going to be intriguing. I cannot wait to see what they're going to give us with the opening. And this opening, I will say, is just as good as the first opening. That's how good this opening is, okay? It is just as good as story, okay? And then the ending song too, I will say like pretty on point with the first one, okay? It's pretty on point. I might prefer the first one just slightly, like the first ED song that we get, which for anyone curious about the ED song, the ED song for Core 2 is titled Ties, which visually looks good. Visually, I will say the ED song, which is Ties, looks really great. And I will say visually wise, I think I do prefer the second, like this ED over Sayonara. I will say that, but it's still pretty good. Or in this case, the actual title of the first ED was "My Friend, We See Our Farewells Here." I mean, like I said, they're both pretty good. They're both pretty good OPs, pretty good EDs too. Okay. I will say though, as far as story and endless happy endings go, they're pretty on point. They are super on point. I can't think which one I like better, but I will say just for right now, I can see endless happy ending like really growing on me. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong, I do love it, but I think right now I'm gonna go with story just because that's the opening I've heard the most, right? But I do think 100% the more we dive into core two, the more we hear the OP. I do believe that it could very well uh supersede story in terms of like it depends on like how much I'm able to like re-listen to it, right? But like story was so iconic because it was like the very first fairy tale opening that we have gotten in like a very long time. And listen, all the fairy tale openings are really great. There's not a bad fairy tale opening in my opinion. None. None of the fairy tale openings are bad. Okay? Like at worst, they're probably like good. That's not like rating wise, like the worst could probably be like a good opening. That's it. But even then, even with that, that's still gonna show just how good the openings are for Fairy Tail. It really does. But needless to say, you guys, that is pretty much all I have to say when it comes to this live stream discussion slash review on Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, episode 14. Let me know what you guys thoughts were on this episode. What was your favorite part about it? And aside from the guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky Rave. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Fairy Tail content, Hero Mashima content, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Laters.